Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel. This is Sylvie Moon. I'm so glad you're here. Today we are painting week 8 in my art grimoire, 8 of 52 weeks for the year of 2022. And I'm going to tell you all about what I'm painting today and how I'm painting it. So living in California, we are already experiencing springtime weather and springtime signs in nature, such as wildflowers and really beautiful sunny skies. Although this week we did experience some rain and snow, and I got to record some clips of some really cool weather events and moments outdoors, which I will share with you here in this video as well. We also got to see quite a few wildflowers coming out on our property. And one of the very first wildflowers that arrives is the shooting star. It's really hard to miss it when you see it because it's such a beautiful little pink flower. It just kind of calls to you to come and see it. And under these amazing blue skies that we've been experiencing with these crazy fluffy clouds this week, the flowers really stood out to me. And I was really inspired by the blue skies this week, so I thought it'd be really cool to go ahead and paint a landscape using the beauty of the blue sky as inspiration and honoring the shooting star flower. And I did a little research on that flower this week and also wrote a poem in honor of the flower, so that's going to be part of this video as well. This week I decided to use a little different process. Earlier this year I bought a jar of what's called absorbent ground. And it's a sort of a gesso that you put on paper or any other media that you want to paint watercolor on. So I decided I was going to try this absorbent ground background and watercolor instead of using acrylics. Although I ended up bringing in some acrylic paint into the painting. As you go along, you'll see. But I feel more skilled and more comfortable in watercolor. And I really missed just kind of playing with watercolor, and I thought it'd be fun to do a painting using watercolor and just experimenting with this new medium, the absorbent ground background. And you'll see that I'm going to paint the absorbent ground on the other page as well, because this is actually going to be a two-sided painting or a double page painting today. And here I am in the process of just sort of sketching out with my watercolor and painting these little shooting star flowers. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about how special the shooting star flower is. But first, let's just enjoy a little of the process here. Isn't the light so lovely that's coming into the room right now? I worked at my desk this time throughout most of the painting, which gives me a little more sunlight. This is filtered through a sheer panel on the window. This is also my view outside of the studio. I do get this particular clip by walking outside and enjoying it outdoors. That's called Deadwood Mountain. That mountain is super inspiring. One of these days I'm going to be painting that mountain. Maybe next week. Who knows? Who knows when that will show up in my grimoire, but it will. So let's talk a little bit about the spiritual sort of side of the shooting star flower. So the shooting star flower is one of the first wildflowers to emerge at the end of winter. And it emerges in sort of areas where there's a lot of snow. When the snow is melting, it's usually shady areas. And it's native to America, so you'll find different types of colors and styles of shooting star flowers throughout the country. And Native Americans saw it as sort of a sign of spring to come. And sort of like when two seasons meet, the winter meeting the spring is sort of the representation of, or what the flower represents, the ending of one season and the coming in of another. The ending of winter, which is sort of like a season considered to be sort of the death of lots of plants and animals, or quiet time, and spiritually, and then moving into the season of life, where everything wakes up again and life begins again in the spring. So it's a harbinger of life. It's a bringer of life. The shooting star also is associated, obviously, with the sky and stars in the sky and stars that die and fall. And they are also considered, those stars were seen as sort of like souls entering the Earth's atmosphere to enter into a person, becoming a person. Shooting star flower can also represent just sort of the entrance of life into a human being. So traveling from birth to, or from growing in the womb to actual birth and coming into the world through the womb. And the shooting star represents that journey. Also very interesting that I didn't know this, but a lot of birthing coaches and other people who work with mothers who maybe have had a traumatic birth, and the babies that were going through that traumatic birth as well, will recommend using this flower essence as a way to kind of heal through the trauma and the anxiety that was caused from maybe a traumatic or stressful birth. I really love that. Here I'm using some gel pens to kind of shine up and bring in like a starry sky, and obviously got to throw in a shooting star into the sky. If I'm going to bring in shooting star flowers, I can't help but think about shooting star in the night sky. So let's go ahead and enjoy a little more of the painting and the process. So the watercolors I'm using are from my Van Gogh set, which I bought a couple of years ago. And honestly, this set is so lovely to use. The range of colors, the saturation you get, how easily they are to wet and to transfer onto paper. I mean, they are just beautiful. So if you're looking for a watercolor that comes in a pan. So obviously these are pan, as you saw at the beginning. You can buy these as tubes as well, but I can't speak for the tube version of these paints. I can only speak for the pan version, and I can say they're really great to work with. The range of color is amazing, and for the price, you're really getting a really great artist grade paint, watercolor paint, without having to spend an exorbitant amount of money. I feel like it's really worth the expense. And you can start with small kits that have, you know, maybe 8 to 12 colors, and then you can get an idea of what you like. Or you can just buy the big set and go for it. But, you know, depending on your budget. I'm also using a variety of watercolor brushes. I am vegan, so I'm moving towards finding brushes that don't use animal hair, but you know, I do still have these brushes from the past before I was vegan, before I made that decision to kind of look at things that were more sustainable. And so that has been something I'm transitioning into, but I do love my watercolor brushes. And as you can see, I also am using acrylic paints in this. So I have mixed some acrylic paint, mainly to get the darker sky colors in. And you'll see I use an acrylic paint, like a lilac color, where that big pink rectangle is in the middle. I decided to go with acrylic because writing with pen on acrylic, that's where my poem is going to be written. And writing with pen on a nice flat space of acrylic is easier than writing on this kind of rough surface of the watercolor on paper. The acrylic will give me a nice smoother surface to write on. So you'll see as I begin to write and share the poem, how easily the gel ink goes down. So here we go. Let's go ahead and continue on with the painting. So as you can see, this week I've decided to add a lot of clips of time spent in nature, you know, things I'm recording, little moments outdoors, all of them being on our property. And I'm really trying to be mindful about going outdoors every day and spending some time just exploring, walking around, or working in the yard. Maybe taking a walk in the neighborhood, just doing something that pushes me outdoors for a while to really help me reset my mood and reconnect with nature, because that's always a really good thing for me, to have a deep connection with nature on a daily basis. Doesn't always happen that way, but I'm always so grateful for the days that I do get to be outdoors and spend some time and get to share what I see with you and what I experience, because that is really the purpose of my art, is to communicate how much I love nature and life itself. So one of the first art fields that I practiced or worked in was poetry, and I haven't been practicing my poetry for some time until just recently, in the last year. I started picking it up again, just going with the really fun form of haiku, and since then kind of getting back into finding my voice and my writing. And so I have been writing more poetry again, and I thought, with the suggestion of my husband, that writing a poem to go with this painting would be really fun, and it is something that I'd like to do in the future, is more of poetry and painting together. So this one's titled Shooting Star, and I'm going to read it to you. I traveled eons, evaded asteroids, raced against comets, tiptoed through meteor showers, fell to the earth afire, landed charred and spent in this body, only to take first breath and forget. And now, my friends, we've come to the end of this week's video. Thanks so much for joining me. It's been really fun to share with you what I'm doing in my art grimoire, give you some idea of what it's like living in the area that I live and seeing some of my pets this time around as well. I hope that you continue to join me weekly here to see my work in my grimoire and be a part of this weekly challenge. If you haven't yet subscribed, I'd love to welcome you to my channel, and don't forget to like this video as well and share it with a friend if you don't mind. Thanks so much again, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.